Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Microsoft, Amazon. These are the big players who are investing in carbon capture cement, particular a company called Carbon Cure Technologies, which could be a leader in generating carbon credits and just overall reducing carbon emissions through their innovations in cement.
All right, so that's kind of intriguing. Tell me about this carbon capture with cement. What is that all about?
Okay, so carbon capture, think about cement and concrete. Concrete's the building blocks of the buildings, the roads, all of this stuff that we need for infrastructure. I saw this in a video from Bill Gates. It was a really great kind of metaphor. If you think about the difference between cement and concrete is like the difference between flour and cake. Cement is the ingredient that goes into what we see in the finished product, which is concrete. The problem with making cement into concrete and creating cement is that the way it is produced, they take aggregates like crushed stone. So they take huge rocks, they mine them, creates this crushed stone, limestone, and this all goes into what's called a kiln. And so it's this big tube, and they fill it with the crushed stone and they heat it up really, really hot. I saw a source that talked about 1500 degrees Celsius that it
Whew.
gets. And what happens in that heating process is 50% of that mixture goes into the air as carbon. And then you also have the energy just to heat the kiln also creates carbon. So I saw another statistic 7% of global CO2 emissions each year are from this cement concrete process. So it is a big problem, and there's a lot to be captured from reducing that emission and capturing it and actually turning it. So, what this carbon cure tech can do is they can take carbon and they can put it inside the kiln. And so now carbon gets stored inside the concrete, taken away from the atmosphere, stored inside the concrete.
Wow, that's brilliant. All right, so who are the big players in concrete and who are investing in this kind of technology?
One of the biggest company called Martin Marietta Materials, I own them. I've been a long-term shareholder. They do the aggregate mining where they take the big rocks, they crush them down and then put them into kilns to make this cement. So they are not just one of those companies who are doing it and just with complete disregard for the environment. One of their big missions is they call themselves stewards of the world's resources. So as an example, they will, if you ever seen a stone quarry, it's just this gigantic pit. And as they drill it down, it becomes a bigger and bigger pit. So what the company does, Martin Marietta, is once they finish mining out a quarry, they've been reclaiming it for nature. So it turns into parks, it turns into fisheries. You can think of like big lakes or ponds that are able to be created and kind of do to get that whole environmental process going so we're not hurting the environment. Related to that, they're also using Carbon Cure, this company Carbon Cure Techs. So Martin Marietta is really getting that whole environmental aspect into their business, making it a priority. In their 2020 sustainability report, they talked about how they have a pilot program currently with Carbon Cure Technologies, which is this company we're talking about. So they're putting some of Carbon Cure's technologies that are these bolt-on components that go on top of the kilns. They're piloting that and becoming one of the people who are at the forefront of trying to get this technology into the world. Other big, I mentioned Microsoft and Amazon. So Microsoft has what they called a climate innovation fund. It's $1 billion specifically to invest in companies like Carbon Cure Technologies that can try to do carbon capture and create carbon credits to help with the big push towards carbon neutrality. In the case of Microsoft, they've actually made a goal publicly that they will go carbon negative by 2030, and they will reduce all of their historical emissions that the company has had since their founding in 1975. They will actually cancel out all of that by 2050. So this is one way that Microsoft, Amazon's another example, they're taking the huge cash flows that they have, putting a part of that into these investment funds that are now funneling money into the companies that are in the forefront of this technology, like carbon capture cement. And so really the groundwork, these pieces are put in motion. The ground pieces are being put into motion as we speak. There we
That's
go.
amazing. All right. So this kind of sounds like a really fascinating and kind of an exciting opportunity. So if people wanted to learn more about this opportunity or what's going on with this, where would be some suggestions for people to look?
Yeah, Carbon Cure Technology, the company itself, is not something you can invest in as a regular investor, but you can look at companies that are still leading this push. Companies like Martin Marietta Materials. I recently did a video on them where I called them my favorite infrastructure play. You can learn about them, and in that research, you can see a lot of the things that big companies like Martin Marietta or Microsoft are doing to invest in this technology.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more about kind of what's going on in the world of carbon capture or net zero emissions, Andrew and I have also talked about a lot about electricity. That's been one of my focuses is trying to learn more about electricity and all the things that are going on in that era, in particular with solar and wind and some of the ESG energies plays out there. We have lots of great videos at einvestingforbeginners.com. You can check out all the great stuff on as well as on our YouTube channel. So without any further ado, we'll sign us off. You guys go out there and invest with a margin of safety, emphasis on the safety. Have a great day.